Welcome back. My name is Jake McDonald. I'm Anything Lacrosse, and this is a game that never sits still. On today's episode, we are going to be going over the history of lacrosse. Being this is my 10th episode, I figured this is a good time to do this. We've also got just the updates on the weekend for preseason games. Some games, some big things happened. I stood out, all that stuff. I'll have all as much information as I can. Obviously, a lot of this stuff isn't fully out there. Some of the teams just don't post the stats. Other teams do. Some teams are better with their social media. Need work. Hey, I'm hiring. Or hey, you can hire me. I'll do your social media. Whatever team. Anyway, after that, we got another great guest coming on, Elliot Bender. I found him originally on TikTok, and I've actually saved about 50 of his videos because he does breakdowns of how to play box lacrosse. And so once he reached out to me and I basically came across his view. I don't think he's really much of a scroller, obviously. So I finally, after all this time, I've come across his stuff, and I asked him to be on the podcast. So he said yes. So I'm trying to bring in people on these podcasts that are going to bring value to the audience, you guys, and anybody who's an up and coming lacrosse guy, or any player that's looking to maybe move from the amateur level into either a collegiate level, Division 1, Division 2, Division 3 school in the States, maybe play some arena or even play at that higher level. Essentially, I think it's good to have these guys in. So he's a very knowledgeable guy, super nice guy as well. So we'll be talking to him, and he's got a lot of insight in there. So stay tuned for that. But right off the bat, we're gonna get right into the history of the lacrosse in general. This is such a beautiful sport. How I started, or I wanted to start this one, how I wanted to start this, what gave me the motivation or the thought process to do this? First off, it's my 10th video, so I think I did touch on this on my first video, but really, more people are on here, and I think I'm going to do this every once in a while, is just go over the history of lacrosse because it is so important. And what inspired this really was I was out on the reserve this weekend. My wife's got family out there. Night, Grandma. My wife's got family out there, so we went out to see her. We went out to have lunch with them, or with her aunt and her cousins. And of course, we talked lacrosse because everybody loves lacrosse out there. And I just basically, after talking to them and going over some stuff, I just thought this was a good time to talk about this. And this is where it all originated, was from the native people. So I think it's always good, being in the creator's game and the medicine game, as they call it, to know the history. And I'm a big history guy, so I love to know the history of things. So this is just something for anybody that didn't know really where the history of lacrosse came from or how it started. I think this is a really interesting read, and hopefully you learned something here. So let's get right into that. So before there were bright lights, contracts, and packed arenas, there was medicine. So basically, this was a medicine game. It was healing, and it was for spirit. Lacrosse began long before the modern game we know today. Both from ceremony. Hold on, I'm not doing this. Hold on. All right. So before all the spectacle that we have now of the NLL, the basis of lacrosse was basically to play for the creator. They would play a medicine. They called it the medicine game because they would play to heal. In their culture, they basically were playing the game, and it would go sometimes days to try to help heal somebody in their community, essentially. So they would just play and play and play. And that was to entertain, and that was to try to help heal whatever was going on. So it wasn't about winning or losing, right, at this point. It was more about restoring balance, community, and connection. And that's why it's called the creator's game right there. So it was super interesting. What I love about this sport more than anything is the heritage, the culture, all the stuff that's wrapped up into it. Now, personally, I've got a little bit of a closer look at it because my wife is she's a status native. So I get to see things her grandmother. I've heard some stories from her and stuff like that, and she's passed away now. But this game is so much more than a game to these people, and so I love the whole native culture, to be honest with you. I love the creator. I love that's the way they look at it. I love about how use what you like, don't use more than you need, all that kind of stuff. Now, obviously, some people follow that more than others, but no judgment. That's just how the native people are, the native culture is. And that's why I think it's just such a nice culture. And lacrosse when you hear these native kids or anybody talk about it, it's a very, oh my God. Ooh, oh, sorry. When you hear these people talk about this, it's not just a game to these people. And that's what I think is what makes them the best in the world at this game, to be honest with you. Is even in Canada, the guys that are Canadian born and aren't native, they're still, it's all, they play against these native kids. They grow up with them, they play with them. So they're still benefiting from having these guys around. And most of the time, these native guys are the best in the world. But obviously, some Canadian born players as well are very top notch players as well, right? Jeff Teat is a perfect example of that. So anyway, with that being all said, sorry, a little tangent there. So lacrosse originated with Haudenosaunee Confederacy. The Onondaga, Mohawk, hold on, I apologize if I read these wrong, but the Onondaga, Mohawk, Oneida, Cayuga, Seneca, and Tuscarora, or how do you say that? Hold on. The Tuscarora nations, I apologize if I said any of those wrong, by the way. It was considered a gift from the creator to played. It was considered a gift from the creator, played to heal the sick, resolve disputes, and celebrate life. So they use lacrosse for a lot of different things, right? It's one of those things. It's healing, it's a celebration, it's all these different things. Every game could include hundreds of players across massive fields, lasting days at a time. So these players would play days at a time, especially when they're trying to do these Haley's, I guess I'm going to call them healing ceremonies again. I might be a little bit out of my depth here for this stuff, but essentially that's what they were, right? So they were just to help heal the people and their culture. And in all fairness, it was a distraction. So right when you're in pain and there's nothing going on and you're staring at the wall or whatever, it's a lot better to watch something like a beautiful game like lacrosse, right? Rather than just sit there in pain and do nothing. So great on these guys to do that. All right. So the French missionaries who witnessed it called it Lacrosse, the cross from the stick shape. Dr. William George Beers modernized the game in 1956. Dr. William George Beers, Dr. William George Beers modernized the game in 1856, forming the rules for field lacrosse. By the 1930s, box lacrosse emerged in Canada, played in hockey arenas during the summer months. Faster, physical, and strategic. Lacrosse thrives in four styles: box, field, women's, and sixes. But every stick, every goal, every whistle all traces back to the spiritual roots of the native people. The Haudenosaunee Nationals remain living proof that lacrosse is more than a sport, it's an identity. And that's the thing. I want to read that again. The Haudenosaunee Nationals remain living proof that the lacrosse is more than a sport, it's an identity. And this is exactly why these lacrosse players, a lot of the native guys, when you see a guy out there on the box or on the field and you see him have a long braid, you know guy is good. I don't care if that's a stereotype, that's just the fucking truth of it, okay? The way it is. That's just it, and that's respect. That's nothing bad about that. So, from wooden sticks to turf arenas, the look of the game has changed, but the heart hasn't. The same medicine, the same purpose still runs through every player who picks up the stick today. So, and that's the thing, guys. Talk to these kids, and I'm talking these 15-year-old kids sometimes that are talking about the culture of the game. The natives really push the culture of the game, and first off, that's beautiful, but that's exactly makes this sport so special. And I think that it makes so much sense that these guys have gone and got teams. And I hope we get more of these guys that will come in and buy some teams and have all their guys represent their teams. And let's see who the actual best in the world are, kind of. And nobody's really going to be locked into play for one specific team. But I can tell you from what the people I know, if that was them, they would definitely be taking whatever kind of, or whatever to try, or they do everything in their power essentially to try to play for the team that represents where they came from, because it's so special. And that's why I did that. I think it was last week or something. I did that video on passion, because I just find and Halifax have these different passions, Vancouver, all that stuff. They have these different passions because they're playing for their home, they're playing where they're from, they're playing in front of people that grew up supporting them and love them. And so, went to the Iroquois Lacrosse Arena today, and I can tell you right now, when I was driving up there, I'm like, where the fuck is this place? I'm driving along and seeing these houses and stuff, and finally I like seen this big white building turn into it. And from the side, it just looks like a big like white building. And then you go around and there's a restaurant. You walk into the arena and you get that feel, and then you walk around and just it's like don't get me wrong, there were people in there, but there were a lot of empty seats, and that's because it's just preseason game at 9 in the morning kind of deal. But at the end of the day, you have these diehard guys there, and like Lyle Thompson sitting behind the other goalie. Now, I didn't want to go over to him. I don't know how he is yet, and I don't want to doing his thing, man. I'm not going to go over and if it was my kid was there with me, I would have said he wanted to go meet him. I would have brought him over and met him. But for me, the guy's just kind of preseason chilling. I'm not going to go by guy too much, so we'll see next time what happens. But it was kind of cool to still see all these different players, all these Ottawa players on the one side, all Georgia players on the other side that weren't playing. They were sitting behind, supporting their team, even though they're not out there, and just chilling and watching, having a good time. To be honest with you, I looked over and none of those guys were on their phones. They were all watching the game. And that's they want to see what their teammates are going to do. Obviously, what they see what their team's going to shape out and all this stuff, and who's going to kind of they want to be there and who's going to make the cut. But at the end of the day, I think it's just more of the respect of the game, to be honest with you. Because even everybody that was there, man, like was on their phone. Like you go to you watch a hockey game, or you watch a football game, or you watch any kind of game. And this is because I was basically on the res, but nobody was on their phone, man. Everyone was just watching the game, and like it wasn't like there was a massive crowd of people there, but there was a decent number of people, and I had some great conversations with a lot of guys, and it's so funny because like at the game you got the Georgia players walking around, you got the Ottawa players walking around, just normal, like no one's chasing them, no one's fucking like no one's doing nothing because it's just not a different sport. I'm telling you, and this might change as time goes on, right? Unfortunately, and I'm glad I'm going to be the one to be here and be able to say I was able to experience this, especially at that arena. Like I don't know how to explain it, but when you went in there, you just felt like as soon as you came around the corner, man, it felt like you're like different because you usually go into a hockey arena. This is made for lacrosse, and I'm telling you right now, boys, like if you've never been there, make the trip. Go see it. It's an experience on its own. I'm not kidding you. It's going to like just going into like a Iconic arena. Like I went to my brother-in-law because they had my kids last night, so I went there first and then went and picked up kids. Sorry, I'm getting off a little tangent here, but when I see my brother-in-law, he's like, "You've never been to the ILA before?" And like he's from the Six Nations, so he grew up there. He played there. His kids played there. He's like, "You never been there?" I'm like, "No," and he's just like, "Man, you got it." Like he just started telling me all about it. And yeah, and so that's the cool. So anyway, this is the history and my tangent, but that was the history of the game of lacrosse. And like I said, I absolutely love this game. I've fallen in love with it, and I love the culture. So anyway, that's a little tangent, and I didn't fully liked it. So I'm gonna get right into now. We're gonna start talking. Oh man, I got like sorry. I don't know why I get this heartburn once I get going here. All right. All right. So we're gonna get right into what I've seen this weekend. We're gonna get right into what I've seen this weekend. So preseason action started Friday night, and game Saturday, a couple today. So I went to see the Georgia versus Ottawa game. I was planning to go back. Well, I was originally planning to go to all of them, but I came down. I live in New Brunswick, as anybody following me at this point probably knows. Anybody new followers, I'm in Moncton, New Brunswick, originally grew up in Hamilton, lived in Brantford. My grandparents are from Brantford. I'm currently in Brantford right now, so I'm right on that border from this reserve there. All the lacrosse happens around here, right? It's the biggest, it's the mecca, is this general area in so anyway, I have some time off, so I came down, and I found out there was going to be games. Unfortunately, like I said, fortunately and obviously, I just ended up getting caught up with family on Saturday. Same as night, I had stuff to do. You know what I mean? I trying to see everybody on top of trying to do also something you want. So I might actually like have to sneak in down here a little bit if I'm gonna do lacrosse stuff, and I won't be able to see as many people as I want to, just because I'm trying to actually cover. Because as much as I love seeing my family and stuff, and I do some other stuff or whatever, but and my all that stuff, I missed a lot of the great lacrosse that I could have been watching for free in person, and the game I went to was amazing. So I can just imagine the rest of them, especially how the scores were. It's going to be an amazing season. I'm telling you right now, and we've got some banger games coming. So last podcast, I did a preview of what we're gonna look like, and after watching that one single game, I'm already second guessing myself. So, which I knew was gonna happen. So anyway, so what we're gonna end up doing is we're gonna before the actually starts, we will be doing an updated prediction list of for finalized after I see watch this whole preseason. They're gonna stream more games next weekend, I think I heard, and stuff like that. So anyway, let's get right into what happened this weekend though. I'm getting off track base here. So we had Friday, Saturday, Sunday. We had let's actually pull this up for 2 seconds while I figure this out so I can actually know what I'm talking about here. So, all right, so perfect. Okay, so Friday night we had versus Calgary. Then Buffalo on Saturday. There was Buffalo versus Calgary, Rochester versus Philly. You had Colorado versus Halifax, and you had Saskatchewan versus Toronto. And then today, Ottawa versus Georgia, and Las Vegas versus Oshawa. So basically, like honestly, what a weekend. Now, with that being said, the big boys aren't fully playing. There's some guys that like to take reps, like Dobson. I've seen lots out there, right? Now not because he was doing bad, obviously, but just because you don't want to play these guys so much the first week of training camp. This is to get rid of their first wave of cuts, right? I think you can only bring 25, so you got to get rid of your first wave of cuts. I don't even know what they're bringing to camp. I think 37 or something. I think it depends on the team. I'm sure there's more like teams that are locked in more. It's everything's so closed mouth in this league. It's even for me, who has like access on the inside, and I'm decent sleuth. I know where to get a lot of information, but even some of this stuff is harder to find. Now, with that being said, I know it's getting easier. They released a schedule this year for preseason, which apparently they don't usually do. But it's kind of like even the week. I mean, I didn't know about this until I talked to one of my buddies, right? And then they were like, yo, this is what's going on this weekend. And I happened to be like, hey, I'm coming here anyway. So it just kind of worked out. So anyway, I'm going to go through the full week, like games. I'm just tell you the scores. And then I might throw a little bit of a hint in there or whatever, if something happened. But then I'm just going to go through all the stats. And a lot of these teams or not a lot, but some of these teams, they're dropping the ball social media wise. This is how you build fanfare, guys. Like, if the league's right now, I'm going to clip this probably, but if the league's watching, listen to me right now, okay? If you're to commercialize a sport and you're trying to build fanfare, you need to put the content out there, okay? And I know I've heard Fruit saying it's coming with this NLL site or whatever. He didn't go into too many details. There's no excuse, or there's no reason, I guess no excuse, but there's no reason that you shouldn't have had all these stats posted. I want to know who scored every goal. I want to know who helped him. I want to see highlights. I want to see replays. Like, I don't understand. I was watching the Georgia game today. I was going to live stream it. I didn't have service, okay? That's a whole conversation. Why? And there's a perfect camera angle. There was somebody standing up there on top of wherever they put the cameras, I'm assuming, in that arena. Why is this game not streamed? Like, is an issue? I know, actually, you know what? I did figure out what it was. Sorry, I apologize. I do know what it is. It's a CBA thing, right? That's down to. Okay, cool. Okay, cool. I get it to a point, but at least post the stats, guys. Okay? I understand you can stream it. Okay, cool, whatever. It's a CBA agreement. Come out to the games if they're free. Hey, awesome for anybody who can get there. You should go with support. It was an amazing experience. I don't think I'm ever going to have an experience like that again, because I think this sport's going to go grow and grow. I'm going to I don't know if I took a picture of the crowd or not, but I'm going to compare it to next year when I go to a game like this. And I guarantee you there'll be more fans there, because this is a special experience. I'm telling you right now. If you've never been to one, you have a couple weeks left. I have to go back to New Brunswick. I'm not going to get to experience this again this year. If you have a chance to get to a preseason game, please go. It's an amazing experience. I'm telling you right now. There is, yeah, and I'm it's different than an NLL game. Now, I haven't been to an NLL game, but I can tell you I've seen it. I've seen crowds. I've been to all hockey games, all that stuff. I know what crowds feel like. This was special. This was a very different experience today, I'm telling you. So that's just my thoughts. Anyway, so we've got Calgary versus Rochester was a 16-13 win for Calgary. Now, Calgary, man, they got a couple guys in there that are looking good. I underestimated Calgary. I'll tell you that right now. I can already tell that a little bit. I like Aiden Walsh, so I'm gonna read anyway. But so maybe Calgary Supply. I hope they do. I kind of hope they do for sake because they can't finish last and watch Toronto pick up their first overall pick. Like that's a kick in the nuts that you could get as a team, honestly. But hey, in all fairness, Jamie Dowick, man, good for him, man. He's swindled. He's swindled. So had Toronto Rock versus Saskatchewan. Toronto 17-10. Okay, the young kids look. The Twitter X, whatever you call it, went crazy with these fans in my Discord. Same thing. Toronto's a fucking cup contender, or they're going for this year, guys. This is stereotypical Toronto. I didn't think Toronto fans were like this in the NLL. I'm wrong. Crazy like fans are. It's a preseason game, guys. I'm not saying it's great. The young guys look good. Stuff you want to go win when you're out there. There's nothing to talk about. But to call a championship after one preseason game is so premature, and that's the most Toronto thing that could be done. Honestly, that's the best way I can put it. So I don't know. I don't know, guys. I'm scared to become a fan of your fan base after I seen that. I was like, oh, do I want to be a part of this massive fan base? Like, I don't know, man. No, no, I'm just kidding. Toronto's going to be, they are, don't get me wrong, I think they're going to be good. I think I projected like 11-7, which is going to shift a little bit maybe, but I think they're going to be honestly right around those 10, 11 win mark. But it's just, it's the same thing that happens in hockey over here, man. Toronto fans just go crazy. One win and, they beat, like, fairness is, that top dog, that team you want to, but it's week one of the preseason, boys. Like, anyway, we've got Calgary versus the Buffalo Bandits, and Calgary won again against the Bandits. Now, again, I'm not sure who the Bandits were playing because I tried to find stats on the Bandits and they didn't post anything. And Calgary, I think, will post it for themselves essentially. So it's like, I just found one on X and I went and looked at all socials and I just pieced everything together so I could get some kind of list going because there's nothing out there that I've seen. So anyway, then we had Halifax. This was a game I was actually supposed to go to. I did watch a little bit of that Toronto game as well. That Saskatchewan Ross Toronto game. I did watch a little bit of it, but my brother was over and I was like, hey, my grandparents. I just kind of didn't want to be completely zoned in on it, so I didn't watch it all. But Toronto did look good. And then we got Calgary versus Buffalo Bandits, 13-6 for Calgary. Like that's huge. Now I know I'm doubting the big boys are playing. Just like Lyle was sitting, I'm sure Dane was sitting, I'm sure Burns was sitting, or I'm sure they weren't playing very long if they did play with a score like that. Backup goalie and probably I'm sure Vince wasn't playing. Like all this kind of stuff. So to me again, I know the Calgary fan out there that loves it. Good for him. For honestly, for his sake, I think it'd be hilarious. Because some call him delusional. It'd be hilarious to see. I'm all about but I can't see doing it. But they got a couple players that can really obviously put balls. So sometimes, and then Aiden Walsh, like he's you never know. Be like he might be this star that steal the show. So you never know. So anyway, Colorado and Halifax tied 14-14. I think Halifax is up with like only like a minute left. Colorado scored to tie it. So again, I would like to be at this game live. I would like to see those boys play. Christian Watts had a big game. I know. I talk about him a lot. Being a fellow TikToker, he is, and he posts every day. I've been saying that by doing that he's really out there training every day. And I know it's only a preseason game. One preseason really showed that he's not screwing around this year. He's got the size, he's got movement, he's got a good speed. Like, buddy, give me the on him all day. So anyway, I know a lot of people think I talk about him a lot, and I probably do, but at the same time, this just proves why the case, right? Super nice guy too, by the way. Then you, what the this time of night? Sorry, boys, I gotta wait till his phone rings out. All right, all right. Thanks. Call it like. Sorry. Okay. Got versus the Philadelphia Wings, 12-8 for them. Rochester really controlled the tempo of the game. Like Philly, they again flashes. It's all still pretty even. I think it's kind of just what I off of X and stuff like that because it's a game that wasn't streamed and just kind of things that I. So again, I didn't see this personally, so I'm just going kind of what I pieced. Just keep that in mind. And again, these are the first preseason game, but Rochester is as well. Like I said, they have a lot of scoring depth, and they've got something to play for this season, being the Seneca boys. So it's interesting. Then you've got You had the versus Ottawa Black Bears, 11-10. Dobson was in net. They took him out. I can't remember who went in as his as his replacement. First came down, or first shot came down, scored. And I think he let in 3 out of 4, 3 out of 5, something like that. So Dobson would have been there. This wouldn't, to be honest with you. But Ottawa fighting back showed resiliency, and it was a really game. And I kind of knew it was gonna happen. I was sitting beside a Georgia fan, and I mean he's a fan. He's a fan of everything. He's just a fan of lacrosse in general. So, but he definitely knows a lot of the guys on the Georgia team. So he's kind of towards them, I'm going to say. But I'm going to tell you right now, Georgia, I'm after watching that game, like I said, I think that I'm kind of wrong about them. There's a couple led to me thinking this too. It's not just this one game. I put in my chat, and this is where I don't know. I'm just learning as well. So I put in my chat that I thought, Ottawa was going to. They had 5 1-goal games. One of in my chat, a really knowledgeable guy, and he's a numbers guy, I think, from what I see. His name's Brad. I've got a few Brads in there, but this guy's named Brad, Toronto Rock fan. Always commenting in the Discord. Awesome guy. Get in the Discord if you're not. He puts out all the games, all its teams, and how many games they had. Right? I thought 5 was quite a bit, but I was wrong a little bit because Georgia had 9 1-goal games. Now they won 5 and lost 4, but that's how close this league is. So, with that being said, after I watched the Georgia game today, they've got size. They're a lot bigger than Ottawa, I found anyway. Fast. Now again, this is so don't take much into consideration, but it's swaying me a little bit. And that's the best way I can put it. So for that reason, we'll see. I think might have. I like Georgia. Teams that they were actually the first team that commented on my TikToks, and they so and they don't. They have they have lower attendance numbers, but they got a passionate owner, and they've got I really like playing there. It's just a turn of having to fly in, fly out all the time. Like it really is not being able to fly private. So again, this goes back to we need to get this fixed. But anyway, and then we've got Las Vegas Desert Dogs beating the Oshawa Firewolves 12-10 this afternoon. I wanted to get to this one. Snowstorm started. Cars were in ditches. I just decided to not. It wasn't working. So I just hung out at my house or at my grandparents' house or whatever. So we actually have to stay. But I didn't back to New Brunswick tomorrow, and God forbid if somebody like ran into me or something. So I was like, my gut was telling me to just stay home for it. And like I said, it's unfortunate because I really did want to go to it, especially after that first game this morning. And then getting to see Halifax practice a little bit too after that game was just super cool all the way around. And I just think, it was a today. Then we've got team. I'm gonna get, like I said, I'm gonna give you all the stats I can. Like some teams didn't put them out, so just kind of run through here. So Dawick with 8 points, he got 4 goals, 4 assists. Owen Hiltz had a hat trick with 5 points, and you have CJ Kirst getting 5 points as well, 2 goals, 3 assists. Those two together are going to be phenomenal. And this is the thing, like as much as I was chirping the Toronto fans and saying, "Oh my God, they're looking for a championship right away," ha ha ha. I can tell you right now, if these young guys perform like that every game, you can't tell me they're not in contention. Now, again, one preseason game, all that kind of stuff. Me wrong. You never know. That's all I'm going to say. You never know. This league is very, very all right. This league is even across the board, and anybody can win any night. And Toronto is, if these young guys step up enough, it's going to be scary. And I'm telling you, I watched Sam English in sixes this year, and I thought he was a phenomenal player as well. So he's going to be coming in as well, and I just can't wait to see these guys just throw down, man. So then we got Calgary. So next we got Calgary. Game 1, Manning put up goals and 3 assists. Dixon put up 3 goals, 3 assists. Gauthier put up 3 goals, 1 assist. Media put 1 goal, 3 assists. Moyer 4 assists. McIntyre 1 goal, 2 assists. Tanner Cook 2 goals. Olsen 2 assists. Carter Cook. Solomon. Solomon 1 goal and one assist. And then game 2, you had Gauthier with another 3-goal night. Ace with 2 goals. Manning with a goal. Dixon, Cook, Olsen. Dixon, Cook, Wilson, Lowen, goal each. So, to be honest with you, Calgary looked very good, but this is the thing. I think they were running with their team. Like, I think they were running with their guys. They wanted to go out and show everybody, we're going to be serious and stuff. We'll see. We'll see. That's all I'm saying. They beat a Buffalo team and they beat a Rochester team. Um, you know, like pretty I'm scoring they had a better game against, I would say. But still, it's still early and I can't again, I'm still sticking with Calgary's gonna be at the bottom. That is one thing that I will say. I don't know if it's gonna I don't think it's gonna be one win. Don't get me wrong. I think they're gonna probably have three or four, but we'll see what happens. Colorado next. We have getting 4 goals again. A rookie coming in and just showing right away that he wants to be an instant contributor. Uh, Dylan Mikitosh 3 goals. Ben 3 goals. Owen Ron, or sorry, Ari Stevens 2 goals, and Brian Cameron 1 goal. So obviously, like Colorado, the thing that I've said Colorado for a little while, um, they have a lot of scoring. They have a lot of guys who can score. I wouldn't say they're the top team or anything, but like the way they've got some get in there that oh, like they got Sowen. Saris is a good like a really good going to be really good uh for them, and he's be able to get them goals. So he might be like the guy there eventually. He's really that good, and I'm honestly shocked Toronto didn't take him at third. Don't get me wrong. Look what Hiltz just did. So what the fuck do I know? But that's how good I had him. I was gonna go fourth. He slid to fifth, but Colorado got a steal at that guy. Honestly, they really did. Halifax didn't put any official like out, so I'm not really sure. But basically, what I pieced together: look fast, structured, and ready. Expect them to be competitive from game one, and I mean that's not surprising. I'm high on Halifax this. I think they're primed to win. There's going to be a big addition. Christian Watts is going to be a big thing. I do know that Christian Watts did get some goals and stuff. Maybe I didn't look on their page close enough for them, but anyway, um, with that being said, like do have a lot of good guys in there, and I can tell you they enjoyed playing at the ILA. I know that for a fact. Then we got wings. They took a lot. Cody Inns, 3 goals, 1 assist. Sam LeClaire, 1 goal, 3 assists. Holden Patterson, 2 assists. Landon Sinfield, 1 goal, 1 assist, and Mike Sowens, 1 goal, 1 assist. Some individual bright spots, but cohesion still work in progress. So again, that's more first quarter, or whatever, but still. And then Georgia Swarm, I just like to add here. So Dobson looked really good, to be honest. He likes to get his reps in. From what I was like, this guy that I was beside me, he knows a lot of the Georgia guys, all this kind of stuff. And basically, I was just picking his brain a little bit. So Dobson, I watched it though. Dobson was really good once they pulled him or like switched him out. Ottawa was really start picking up the pace and getting those goals. So came back, they almost won. And if Dobson was in net, there's no that wouldn't have been as it was. Um, like I said, there's of them and their speed stood out. It was really like Georgia. After I watched them, I'm really impressed with them, to be honest with you. So like, there's going to be the competition in Georgia. I think it might be, to be honest with you, there's so many young guys and all this stuff. I think that might be the training camp to keep an eye on, because that might be where you're going to see a guy come out of there and really be able to step away and try to win that spot on the team, more compared to a guy from like, look at Halifax, Saskatchewan, Rochester. Like teams are somewhat pretty in for this season. Vancouver, like where Georgia, that you can kind of go in there and maybe aim for yourself and go get a spot. Interesting that as well. Another thing I want to point out is Zach Miller looked really good after missing last. He's back, so he looked good, and like he lead a lot of leadership to these young guys, and that's the thing. I mean, you have him, you have Dobson's been in the league a couple years now, I think. So it's really going to be, we're going to have a mix of young guys, and then you're going to have a lot of like a good core veterans to really help these guys develop, and hopefully Georgia like I said, I'm hey, Preacher, Al Thompson's the best player in the world, and I think that when you don't make the best player in the world, something's happened. 9 1-goal games. I don't know. So anyway, Ottawa and Saskatchewan and Buffalo really didn't post any stats. So like I said, Dawick 8 points in one game. Just he's really showing that he's a star. Even though his dad owns the team, it doesn't matter. He's definitely he given that's definitely earned that spot. Noah Manning with 8 points. Sorry, Noah Manning 8 points. Calgary, and then Hayden Dixon with 6 points. So again, it really a couple new guys like that. So maybe that'll be their dynamic duo coming into this season, and maybe you'll see them a massive game or massive season, right? And we'll see what happens. Brandon Sarah with 4 goals mentioned. Again, like I said, surprised he's dropped, but Owen Hiltz with 5, a hat trick. I mean, that's and CJ Kear's 5 points as well. So they have 2 of those guys, man. How Toronto swindled that is I will never understand it. Plus the 2026 first from Calgary. It just holy cow, dude. That's insane. Especially when you say it out loud. It even sounds crazier when you say it out loud. Then you have Cody Inns with 4 points. Tyson Williams got a hat trick, right? Pretty good numbers there. Ground, a couple guys stood out. Obviously, we're gonna get more training camp next season. You're gonna have more guys standing out. You're gonna have more of the big boys starting to play a little bit, and then by the third weekend, they should be all kind of like rolling their teams, I would think, to get this ready. But obviously, every player's got like different things, and there's no putting this star player out there for him to go out there and then have some kid that's trying to make the team make a name for himself, throw a big hit and injure one of your stars. So let the first week, first 2 even, it's like let them, let figure out what we're gonna somewhat look like, and then let's start running the teams, right? So again, that's just my 2 cents on that. And okay, so that's basically just the weekend breakdown. This is going to be kind of the thing what I'm doing now. Once the season starts, even this like we'll look preview. Thursdays I'll be doing the preview for the week, and on Mondays when this gets released, I'll be doing the kind of the following here is going to be the easiest way to just you know keep up to your on all this stuff and know what you're going to be every week going into the season, and then coming back to Monday and seeing how wrong I was and talking about it. And I once as time goes on I get better just like everyone is, but I do think I have a pretty decent handle on how this season's going to go. I know I kind of went a little crazy with the predictions last week. I did that somewhat on purpose to try to get like that reactionary thing. I believe that these teams, don't get me wrong, are going to do really well. But I will say I'd like to watch the whole preseason before I actually make my official pick. So it's coming. That stuff. Keep it going. So now we bring our guest on. Okay, Elliot Bender. I met him, like I mentioned before at the start of the video. I met him, or I started following him on TikTok, and I saved about 50 of his videos because he breaks the game down, and a lacrosse IQ is so important to these players, and I think it kind of gets overlooked because all these players, especially at young age, they're looking at just getting out there and playing, which is great. You gain a lacrosse IQ like that. I agree with that. But there is also a sense that you should be studying film. You should be watching players play. You should be picking a player you want to emulate and try to see what they do, the small things. And you'll see this in this interview. Elliot kind of goes over this a little bit, but you should really try to like sit down and like study the game. And then when you're out there, you can do those little things that you notice that maybe you play like Josh Burns, right? Now nobody's saying you're Josh Burns, or you play like a guy, well, I'm not going to even lie, but you play like a guy, that's a really strong, you're good at transitioning. So go watch somebody that's really good at that and see what they're doing that's just slightly different than you, because you're already really good at it. So just change a little things, or just the little tweaks sometimes make the biggest difference. So we have Elliot on the podcast. He's a really nice guy, really knowledgeable, and I just thought that he would be, a perfect guy for anybody upcoming, anybody who wanting to learn. And even as a coach, if you it's always good to understand the game and more. And so for me, who doesn't have any coaching experience or has very little coaching experience, because I did help coach last year, and doesn't, I'm taking over a team this as of right now. That could change depending on if they get somebody more experienced, but I'll still be helping either way. But I'm going to take on my son's team. I've already thrown my hat ring for that. So I'm going to even just be listening to his stuff and trying to break the game down as a non-player, just trying to help these kids grow and stuff like that. because I understand my knowledge is only so much when it compared to like somebody that's played his whole life compared to me just trying to learn the game. Yes, I can probably do it for a kids lacrosse team, but I wouldn't want sure there's also a lot more lacrosse heavy IQs than me out there because they played the game and they've done it all. That being said though, hey, when there's a spot, try to fill it. And I'm lucky to have access to all these different minds and get to talk to these people. So without further ado, let's get right into the interview. Elliot Bender, he's a great guy, fantastic coach, and I enjoy it. Let's get right into it.
On today's podcast, we got an exciting guest. We have Elliot Bender, who's a big into the lacrosse community. I stumbled upon him on TikTok from his informational videos and breakdowns on lacrosse. I think this is a big important part of lacrosse is the IQ that a lot of players look over. So welcome to the show, Elliot.
Hey, thanks for having me on, and really appreciate what you're doing. I think it's awesome, just like growing the game and making sure we're getting all this out there. And there's so many facets of it that really need to be developed. So really excited to have to be on here and be talking about lacrosse. I think there's so much that can be talked about. So it's great to see people like yourself jumping into this community and helping grow this game, because it's a game that can take you around the world. It's a game that can get you through a lot, and it's a game that can give a lot to you. And I'm just here to support that and help other people experience what I've experienced.
Well, it's such a niche thing. I only really learned about box lacrosse last year, and I watched it during the NHL All-Star break, and that's why I got hooked. Buffalo Bandits Toronto Rock game. And after that, we already had my son signed up for box lacrosse at that point, but after watching that, I was just hooked on it. So I've been hooked since, and I've just started doing content because there was nobody doing content, essentially. So just give us a breakdown of what your background in lacrosse is.
I had a really interesting experience with lacrosse. I think it was very atypical, and I think that's what helps me relate to athletes and allows me to coach them. So I started off playing in San Jose, California in 2000 in sixth grade. I was horrible, not very good. And then by the time I got into eighth grade, I was a decent player and really worked a lot at it on my own. It was like my thing that I did. And I was known as the lacrosse guy in San Jose, California, because there wasn't many athletes that really identified as a lacrosse player. We had a little bit of lacrosse going on, but not a lot. And so I was always the lacrosse guy and everywhere I went. And I ended up going away to a small university called Fontbonne University, and I played field lacrosse there. There wasn't like a big recruiting process because California was just out there. There wasn't a lot of lacrosse happening at the time. So I played 1 year of college ball at Fontbonne, and it's St. Louis, and being a California guy going to St. Louis, Missouri, like the weather, I can't handle that stuff. I got to go up, get out of there. So I went home and I got hooked up, and I met this guy named Shaden Santos, and he started the United States Box Lacrosse Association. I think currently there's like 4 members in it. Him and Matt Brown standardized box lacrosse in the U.S. And I just happened to be, little brother was in one of Shaden's programs. And my dad came home and was like, you got to go help this guy out. I think he needs a little bit of help. I showed up at the rink and I just basically tossed balls for him so he could shoot and show kids how to play box, because I didn't have any experience with box at that time. And I kind of was his right-hand man. And within like a couple of years, we were doing a ton of stuff, and we were taking teams everywhere, and we were helping programs open up box lacrosse stuff. And it just kind of grew. And I had this really unique experience as an American where I got to like under guys like Shaden Santos, Matt Brown, Colin Doyle, and kind of how they taught Americans to play this game, because there's a real difference in teaching Canadians this game that have a hockey sense and a hockey background versus Americans who are coming from more of a football, and you're not used to that, like thinking, the conceptual read and react of hockey that you get. And so like that, and then taking my atypical experience of growing up in traditional field lacrosse, I kind of wanted to coach. And so I've just transitioned, and I've turned my life into this opportunity to coach kids and mentor them. I kind of love that I got to go up to Canada and go play up there and play a couple summers. And I played one season of pro box in this thing called the PBLA when I was about 22 years old. And it was a great opportunity, and I learned a lot from it. And then I went home because I had some family stuff going on, and been kind of running programs ever since. And game.
Yeah, on the West Coast, it seems to be growing quite a bit. Like you've been starting and getting into coaching. Like, how many kids have you seen, or what is the growth in kids have you seen? Like, did it start off with 5 and now it's like, or kind of what does it look like?
As far as like in programs and everything like that?
Yeah.
So California is huge and absolutely like up as far as lacrosse goes. So from like the 2000s, to give you an idea, San Jose is kind of lower part of Silicon Valley. And so it's in Northern California. There wasn't a team within 40 minutes of me in 2000. The closest team was the Palo Alto Tomahawks. It's probably about 40 minutes and plus. And so now when you look at that area in San Jose, there are like 3 or 4 youth teams alone that have like from, grade up to 8th grade, across multiple age groups and levels. So it's definitely gotten a lot better there. And there's way more competition. There's way more high schools. And now you can see it, like the quality of recruits that are coming out of California is massive on the scale of it. So the game is definitely growing. Box has taken off there as well. There's a lot of box lacrosse happening. There's like travel box clubs in San Jose, Northern California. There's one that's really legit. That's Calilax.
Okay.
And yeah.
Awesome, man. I love to see the game grow. And I think, I don't know if you've heard of the Mighty Oaks. It's a documentary dropping next month, December 9th. And it's a guy from California that just started in his small community, built the game from the ground up. So it just seems to be growing out west so fast out there, and kind of just hockey did exploded in there.
Mm-hmm.
Part of your game did you find naturally, or came natural to you? And then what's some stuff that you really had to work more on?
Oh man, I don't know if anything came natural to me, man. I was just a hard worker. What came natural to me? What came natural to me was I'm very strong at like running ball in general. So I like I'm young for my age. So when I really when you can say just like what naturally came well to me, my ability to run and dodge in the open field, that was like, some of that is God given for sure. But having to what I had to do was I had to change my hands entirely. And the way you catch and throw in box is so different than field. And so I'm really lucky that I got to be around a guy like Shaden and just see how he catches and throws, because it's when you watch like high box lacrosse guys playing, they hold the stick differently. And, I always start off with holding the stick in your fingers. And so that was a part that was, super difficult, but it took a lot of time to really change the way I played in front of the net and how I move my hands and all that stuff, right? So that would be for me, that was a lot, I think.
Okay, so one of the things that's always been said or that I've heard a lot, now I'm a fan, right? No playing experience. I helped coach a little bit last year and stuff, understand the game. But one of the things that I've heard a lot is that box all translates to field, but field doesn't always translate to box when you're talking player-wise. Do you find that's true, or is that kind of off base?
That's a great question. Honestly, I've been talking about that a lot. And I go back to, do you know the name Mac O'Keefe?
Yep.
Lefty, plays in the PLL,
I
forget what.
Yep.
He's playing, God, I know he plays in the NLL. I can't remember what team he's playing for, but he's a lefty shooter. He's a good player.
Yep.
And so him and his crew, he 6 out and they played on our Team US Boxlet team. And some of them didn't really have a ton of box experience, but they were just really talented field guys, all going D1 at the time. And it kind of dawned on me that if you play really good field lacrosse growing up, there are similarities in the game, and field lacrosse is a very tried and true sport for athletes, right? So if you're a good athlete, you should plug into lacrosse and be just fine. The intricacies, though, and the details of box is where it gets confusing. And what I find you have to do is you have to be able to reduce your game down from field to box, because everything happens so much faster in box. So you have to have less in between doing skills. So less cradles, less steps. There's just less time to do everything. So you have to be more efficient with your movement. So if you have a true understanding of what you're doing and how you're doing it, you're going to be able to reduce down. And if you can't, you're going to struggle.
No, absolutely. That's exactly right. The inside there, these box guys are so good at controlling, but those field guys are also, their cardio is so good because they run so much. And that's why I'm kind of intrigued with the sixes format. I definitely think there needs to be some changes there. But I find guys like Jeff Teat always comes to mind because he plays high level, highest level field and then the highest level box. And he just went and dominated this summer in the sixes. So what are your thoughts on sixes? Do you like it, the good direction we're going into, or should we be just playing field in the Olympics?
I love sixes. I think sixes is the only way that I see Americans and other countries that don't have access to as box lacrosse and knowledge as the way that you can catch up to Canada. Canada is kind of leading right now, and it hurts my heart to say that, being an American, but I love Canadians. I love you guys. I love the poutine up there, all the good stuff,
Yeah.
But to me, I love it because it allows you to play in that small-sided environment with lots of touches and lots of reps, but it allows you to use field lacrosse footwork and stick work, which will, the lacrosse stick work and footwork is very, very for you. But if you don't have enough reps to get through those mechanics, you can kind of see your progress. So I'm a huge fan of it from a player development perspective, even more so from programs, because the economic advantages of running sixes for programs, you have one field, you can run 3 games on it. You don't need as many athletes. That means you don't need as many coaches. You don't need as many balls. You like so wins here, but I feel like people are afraid to jump in because they maybe know the game, but it's actually an easier game to teach than field lacrosse is. And so I think we have to like really push and jump into sixes. It's like the thing that we can do. And I see the development with athletes. And the shot clock is a must. I think if you're going to run it, you really got to make sure you have a shot clock or refs that are really incentivizing the players to work hard on the field when they're playing.
No, I think, like I said, I know there's a lot of guys who don't like it. There's a lot of guys who are kind of on the fence. There's a lot of guys who really do like it, like yourself. I like it. I think there needs to be tweaks. I think it needs to be slowed down slightly, like a flop after every goal, or even behind, like bringing the ball behind the net instead of coming out, just to give that. Because if you're talking, they built this sport for, or this for the Olympics and for TV. And the thing is, I noticed it's not quite commercialized yet. Like, they don't have highlighted player names under it. They don't have, there's no jerseys. I think instead of the pennies, get a jersey, get a name, sell the stars, all that kind of stuff. But definitely potential there.
Yeah, commercializing was tough, especially when you think about box lacrosse, right? It's like really to get that fan experience and like maximize football. The reason that football is so big, and it's because it's so easy to watch. You could sit there and talk with your buddies, and then you could turn back and catch the play action that's going on, and you're right in the moment. But box lacrosse, and sixes is just as fast. But like your ball move around, you're like, what the heck is going on? I turn to my buddy, and now I look back at the game, and I can figure out. For me, sometimes I'm watching the play and I'm like breaking down, like, where's the ball? How did this seal work? Like, so it's just like it's this of the game of like, how do you show that? Like, a lot of questions still that need to be worked on. I think you're 100% right there.
Yeah, and the other thing that I want to touch on sixes is like their size. Now, I understand it's great for younger, like smaller, because you don't need as many guys. But how are you going to cut down to the top 10 Americans, 10 Canadians, 10 Haudenosaunee? Like, how do you pick those guys? I'm just like, man, that's going to be hard for us to do that job.
And that's why they did it that way, right? Is because it gave the other countries a chance, right? Because most countries can now find like 10 that can kind of, you have 1 or 2 alternate. You could find guys. And within the next like 10 to 15 years, we're going to start to see the other countries catch up. And that's exactly what we want. Like, a highly competitive thing. And as an American, I want America to win constantly. But it's like fun when like your disparity, right? Because we want the rest of the world to kind of have this great community, because at the end of the day, lacrosse is it's about winning and playing the game and doing it the right way. We're also a very unique community, right? And, community build up everywhere around the world is awesome to think about.
Yeah, no, I'm all for growing the game. So anything that helps that, I'm for. Okay, let's talk coaching a little bit. Like, for a kid that comes into a program, what would you recommend they do at a beginner level? And then also a kid that's also trying to push, maybe go into that, clear, even trying to go to a semi-pro or pro level?
Great question. I think you're going to have different cues, but they're all going to fall back on the same thing, which is mastery of the fundamentals, right? So I'll relate it to when I played for the Oakville Rock, and it was some of the best practices I'd ever been to, where we were just running fast and throwing the ball to each other, passing, catching, getting up and down the floor. And it was like an hour of just running around. And so I was talking earlier about the reduction, across the box lacrosse, the more you can handle the ball without having to cradle it, the more you can run full speed and confidently throw and confidently catch, that's going to set you up for success down the road. Now, that's just high level. When we zoom in, beginners, I think they just need to focus on quick sticking. So I have an awesome video on my, on Instagram of me within a stick length from the wall, and you're literally just working on this motion here. catching and throwing, and you're next to the wall and you're cushioning the ball back. And if you think about it, that's the most simple version of the game that you need to be able to do, the most simple skill of just catching and throwing the ball, and you're working on those release points. So for everyone, they need to do that, but beginners specifically. And then I think for intermediate level players, the difference between a beginner and an intermediate level player is the ability to execute those things while you're moving. Right. So now we should be able to pull off these skills that we were doing as a beginner, and we should have fluidity. So I think about it like cut your body in half. Your lower body is a track star and your upper body is a lacrosse player. So your body should work independently against each other. Your hands are doing different things than your feet, and they're exactly perfect. Like you're in the right spot doing the right things. And so then from there, from intermediate to advanced, you now need to have multiple ranges of that quick stick, and you can do it on the run, right? So you kind of here and you're constantly quick sticking like this, and as a beginner, and then as a intermediate player, now we're moving side to side and quick sticking. And then as we get to more advanced levels, now we're able to move side to side while quick sticking. And then we're also hitting different release points and moving our stick around and being deceptive with our head and eyes. And so that's like this high level overview of how I would break it down is you're adding a layer each time. The first fundamental skill, beginner, movement, intermediate, layers of how we perform that skill as an advanced player.
Oh, great advice there. Absolutely. What would you look for in a high level player when you're coaching these top level teams? Like when you're doing tryouts, kids are showing up, and then how do you decide what kids to cut and what kids to kind of how stand out or what they should do to stand out?
Great question. So there's a couple different ways I'll answer this, and I think each answer is kind of like own little pillar in this. So the first thing I look for is seeing the game. Are you in front of the game? Are you in the middle of the game? Are you behind the game? And so we can see this in various ways. When you step off the floor, when you step off the bench onto the floor, are you right away into the game and being a threat or defending well? Or are you having to take a second to figure out what's happening as you're entering the floor? Can you make a play right off the bench? Because if I'm seeing you make plays right off the bench, I know that you're engaged 24/7 in the game and you're looking and thinking about things constantly. And that's what I love seeing that. Priority number 2 for me is an old adage I got from a mentor of mine named Matt Oglesby. And his thing was respect, attitude, and effort. And so, respect, attitude, and effort is going to show up in different players in different ways, right? So, like some kids are not going to be the kids that are going full speed after every loose ball. You want that, but not every kid is going to win that. And some kids are going to need to position themselves on the backside to make the right play. So effort is going to show up differently in other areas. Attitude is going to show up differently in other ways too. You're going to have some kids who are not necessarily going to be that huddle, you're right there next to the coach looking them dead in the eye. Some kids' attitudes based on the way they grew up and what's happened in their life, they need to step away from that huddle and process things a little bit differently. So it's about finding that healthy medium and showing up in a way that says, hey, I'm respectful of, the rules, the culture of your program that I'm trying to step into, but I'm also expressing myself in the way that I play the game. And that's what builds confidence in athletes and helps them kind of grow. It's like, okay, you go
It's all good, man.
Yeah. Yeah. Those are the really big areas for me, for players that I'm kind of assessing. And then from there, your individual skill and touch and hands or how hard defenders hit and, how gritty are you, right? Are you going to run and work hard for the team? Are you going to soak a shot? Are you going to take a bad check,
That's great. I think that point where you said, engaged in the game while you're even on the bench is such an important point that I think a lot of athletes maybe overlook when they're just, a tryout or something like that. So that's a really good thing because I like to ask these questions to, younger generation, anybody watching, what they should be trying to do from all you guys that are high level coaching and all that kind of stuff. So you have our own training program. Why don't you tell us a little bit about that? On TikTok, I've got probably 50 of them saved for my kid just to go over drills with them and just tell them, wedding, all that kind of stuff.
Well, thank you. I appreciate the opportunity to talk about it. So appreciate the fact that you have everything saved. That's awesome, dude. I love that. That's how I do it. It's, thing for me. So, I have 2 little things that I do. The thing I'm just kind of getting off ground, I'm actually looking forward to talking with you offline about it to help me with this process.
Yeah.
But I'm running this thing called the Blueprint, and it's a basic film review where I jump onto a screen kind of like this, and I take clips and I break them down and I walk players through the concepts that you're missing, you might need to add into your game, and I'm going to show it from the D side and from the O side. I don't really touch faceoffs. I don't really touch goaltending. Those aren't really areas that I can be super high level in. I can be efficient, but I can't. There are other guys that are better at it, right? I'll talk about the game in general. And then afterwards, we kind of jump off like the live stream and we go to more training of how you can actually train for those concepts. And so, and a little Q&A afterwards about what you can do and how this might relate to your game. And then we always end with a little bit of mindset stuff, because what I've seen, I'm 50 years old. I have 2 daughters that are 5 and 4. And what I've noticed in life is the biggest difference is mindset, 150%. And so the more we can start to talk about that, I think the better our, generation of lacrosse players can be. And so then the other program that we do, it's a little bit more of a higher end program. It's a mentorship where you get access to me, and we create an entirely customizable plan, all geared towards your path, your development, and your goals. And it's a super holistic way of developing athletes, because in the program, I always talk with the families about it. Yes, I'm trying to maximize your lacrosse development, but what I'm really doing is trying to prepare you for life, using lacrosse as that constraint to build character, right? And so we use lacrosse as a way to build character through your purpose, and your purpose is lacrosse. And as you develop that purpose, you go and work on your own, and that, when no one's watching, builds that character. And then I kind of help with that process to faster, right? There's no shortcuts in life, but mentors can help you see around corners and move through things faster.
Well, absolutely. That's fantastic. So it's more, by the sounds of things, it's a lot of one-on-one and kind of, develop players like that, essentially.
Player development, everything, like to a high level, a lot of stuff going on behind the scenes in my life. And I know that if I had, me that could have, through some situations and provided a little bit of advice for me. And I think it would have helped me so much down the road of, take this path, these little things. And being able to do that for others is what gets me fired up, right? It's just, I have it. I wanted it. I'm not going to cry about not having it. I'm going to go help that for others. And that's how I'm going to fill my cup up.
Yeah, that's because there is a lot of kids that obviously, have they're growing up that's not in a lacrosse community that want to be part of this, and they just don't have any, open that doors or kind of just, path a little bit for them. So that's fantastic. So like you talk about a lot, and it's so important, lacrosse IQ. What would be the best way for these guys to get lacrosse IQ? Is it just by getting out there and playing? Is it watching on TV? Is it going to live games and watching? What would you suggest for these kids?
Yeah, I think everybody's going to have different ways that they're going to learn. I think the most powerful thing that you can do, though, is watch film. And so that is like, I know a fair amount about this game, and I'm pretty comfortable saying that, but I'm watching so much game film and breaking things down, and I'm seeing so many little things in so many details. It's like creating that white belt mentality in me, and it's really firing me up to learn more. And so I know if I'm taking as much away from watching these NLL clips in this game film, young players, overload for them. It should be overload for them, but it's focusing down and really knowing what to look for. For example, right? Like how kids have been taught how to watch film, not taught how to watch film. Adult, I know that I can zoom in on clips and I can slow things down and I can rewind and watch it again. And then I can see how that was set up. So now I'm building that fundamental. We're not just talking about letting a game run and watching, going, oh, that was a cool goal. I want you to sit there and I want you to zoom in and I want you to rewind and I want you to watch that and understand it. And then I want you to mentally think about how you would perform that. And then I want you to go out the next day or later on that day and go practice that skill. And then I want you to go back to that skill and I want you to watch that skill again and then see how you might add that skill into other areas of your game, right? That's when you learn how to do that. You've just learned how to do life because you can now teach yourself anything. And that's like the powerful part about lacrosse. And what I try to do with kids is getting them to understand how much power they hold in their hands.
No, absolutely. So, what would you say for these kids? Because you coach so many kids, what would you say that you notice that they kind of need to work on more than other? Because most, the skills that everyone just kind of are naturally more gravitationally good at, but there's certain things that maybe guys don't want to work on or players don't want to, so naturally good that they need to kind of spend more time on. What would those things be?
Yeah, the things that I can say that I would love to see more athletes be better about is one, ground balls or loose balls. We call them ground balls and north of them loose
Yep.
balls in Canada. So being really good at those, because if you can get the ball in your stick, you're going to find time on the floor, plain and simple. So that's number one. And then number two, having the confidence to run hard, just run as hard as you can. Eat a check while you're running full speed. Run hard to the net and make a mistake. Fail fast, right? It's okay to play this game really hard. And a lot of kids aren't going to have the ability to be super deceptive like a Jeff T. When you watch him play, he is just toying with his defenders and he's just stepping into spots and making a miss. And I wish I could be like that, but I'm not that. I know what I am. I'm gonna put my shoulder down and I'm gonna run around you and I'm gonna grind it out. And I can make you miss a little bit and do things like that. But I would be lying to myself if I told you that I was this elite deceptive dodger. I'm not. I never will be. It's not the way my body moves. My mind isn't where Jeff Teets is. So I base my game around running and working hard. And I think more kids did that. They would make games a lot more competitive. They would make tryout processes a lot more competitive. They would end a lot of the problems of I'm not getting enough playing time, doesn't like me. A lot of great things that happen from just running hard.
Yeah, absolutely. How do you find dealing with parents and stuff? Do you find that they're overbearing or do you find that, their kids play a lot now? How do you find the parents are in today's society, yes?
I have been blessed to not really have to deal with bad parents. I've been doing this for 17 years. I've had maybe a handful. And those handful are not even close to what other people have had to deal with. So I feel very blessed, number one. And number two, I as a parent myself, now I can kind of them. And so it helps me with them. And parents are all trying to find that balance. We're getting bombarded with, you got to keep up with the Joneses and, how kid developing and, everything under the sun that you can do constantly. And so I think, my number one thing for them is like not get so wrapped up in that development process, but really like looking at your kid holistically and like creating a great relationship with them that you have when they're, 30 years old and they come back to you because you facilitated that love and that bond, right? So like making sure it's not, when in the car, the game, the kid doesn't feel trapped and they're being interrogated by, why'd you do this? Why'd you do that? The car ride rule, right? You have, he gets in the car and, hey, how'd I do? You want to hear it from a coach or do you want to hear it from a dad? And if it's, the perspective, it's you did great, let's go get ice cream. And if it's from a coach, well, hey, I do this and I'd like to see that a little bit better. But now we've let the athlete, you're kind of, conversation, which is going to create trust. And that trust is, that bond is what we're all parents, I think, are really looking for, is to have that better connection with their kids. Right. And we all want what's best for them. So we push them super hard and, we want them really hard and just feel ways to like, little power in those interactions and help them feel, talking with you about those things. Because, parents struggle with that when they start to get to that older 13, 12-year-old age. Right.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Like I see a lot in hockey here and like I see it with football and basketball down there. Like the pitches go crazy. I mean, and as parents get younger, I mean, go on. I think it is getting slightly better, but I mean, flag lacrosse isn't quite like that yet from what I see anyway. It's refreshing to come from a hockey community like that and then come into lacrosse and it's pretty good, I find. Anyway, from my experience anyway. So, okay, so let's run through some stuff. So I want to run through like what we give some recommendations for some like footwheel drills. So in separation, how to get some distance from a defender that's on you.
Yeah. Question. Footwork is like your one kind of thing. That's what you need first and foremost when you play the game. So from a offensive perspective, I think we're all familiar with the term a jab step, but that's basically where you're taking one foot and kind of away from the center of your body to sell like you're going to run to one side and then going back the other way. And so what I love seeing, two little things that are really easy for me to walk through, is working on that jab step, but pausing once you've reached. So you take that step out and you hold that step for a second and you focus on your posture and your positioning. You think about bringing that opposite shoulder down to that knee that's stepping and reaching. So you can work on those mechanics of selling that, and you can pause and count to 2, and then you explode out and you can hit your dodge. And so I equate it to like powerlifting. When if you've ever seen people move really heavy weight, they practice moving that heavy weight and they do pause works, and that helps them build their, what we call the groove, or the path that the bar moves on when you're lifting. Same thing with lacrosse. We have a groove when we do a jab step. So let's really make that groove efficient by practicing it the right way. So that's number one. And then number two, if you've ever seen like choppy, right, where guys are just chopping their feet back and forth and then they make a little move, those things are wonderful developers for the hip flexors and for the glutes and everything in that hip complex. If you can just get some choppy steps and then you go into a dodge, now you're working on your overall coordination, firing your hip flexors and your glutes properly, and that's going to make you a more explosive athlete. It's hard to do. You do like 3 to 5 of them, you're going to start feeling it right away. I recommend, for work, you're doing like 20 or so, and then you can kind of get the workout, and you should hit the different angles that you're going to work on. And then for choppy steps, about 15 to 20 of them as well. And then you can kind of go on your normal work. You add those 2 things into your game and your footwork is going to become really efficient, probably in like 2 to 3 weeks.
No, that's great advice, man. And so what about some shooting drills? Like what we recommend for those? And how do you feel about like underhand stuff? Because I know coaches are kind of, the pros do it. Obviously, they're at a completely different level. But I know when we were talking last year to our U13s, it's like, overhand, right? And not trying to go so underhand.
Yeah. Biggest kind of lacrosse right now. And you're kind of, people were talking about sidearm and the stick technology and how it's more efficient to go sidearm now and all this stuff, right? And underhand. When we talk about, first thing that I always say is slow down. Most athletes can benefit from slowing down, pausing, and making sure they're getting their hands set. So key details that I see in most players' shots is their stick. When they go to wind up, their stick is in a position like this, and that's their starting point. And if your stick is in this position, as opposed to completely flat, you don't have as much room to take your stick through that shooting stroke. And so now if you're trying to shoot for those high corners, it's harder to put the ball there because you don't have as much time with the ball in your stick. So the ball starts going low. But good goalies start recognizing that that stick is pointed down, so they're going to start guessing low. And then if your key thing is to just get into this position and shoot it low, you can start getting to elite goalies. You're now shooting the ball right into their feet. They're going to make that save, and you're not going to understand that your starting position just needs to do this to this. And that now changes to a deceptive shot because we have various levels that we can hit. Now, to answer your question about sidearm and underhand, right? So we've kind of talked about where athletes need to start from. Once you have this down and you're constantly getting into this flat stick position and you're constantly hitting your corners now we start working on that sidearm shot. Now we can start working on that underhand shot. But don't start working on that sidearm and underhand shot until we have efficiency of movement with our overhand mechanics, because the release points only get harder. The ball only comes out quicker. And so we don't want to work on that until we've developed the base level.
Yeah, it's tough. And I think that's kind of what the coach there was talking about, or for my sons and all that stuff, because watched it on TV and then they try to emulate it, and they focus on getting the basics down first, obviously. So if you start with a new player in your training or your one-on-one or whatever, what are kind of things you show them to help them improve the most and see their game get better?
Like a brand new kid?
Yeah. Or somebody coming in to talk to you, really, like it'd probably be at an intermediate level, right?
Okay. Yeah. What we're going to do is we're going to assess their movement. That's what we're going to do. So then as I assess movement, I'm going to look at their stick and hand work. And so the way I relate this is like when you watch NLL players, you can see how synced up their footwork is and their stick work is. And it's pretty easy to see how skilled they are, but you have to zoom in a little bit on the play. If you're not timing your jab steps up with your tucks and your hitches and your movements, that's going to be the first thing that we're going to work on, because protecting your hands while learning how to get yourself open with your feet, that's like one of the biggest parts of the game that I can really help with, and I can really help you control and understand. So that is like one of the biggest things. And then I'm going to look at stick positioning. I'm going to look at where your hands are if you're holding the stick correctly. Like, we don't want to be squeezing the stick. We want to have the stick in our fingers, right? So we can have more dexterity with our wrists. And so those are like the really things. I'll look at how you're catching the ball too. Coaches, we don't talk a lot about catching the ball with soft hands, but if those things where if you go into you don't have soft hands, you're now taking away 50% of the shots that you can get, because you're not going to be able to catch the ball and redirect the ball with a quick stick or whatever it might be. So those are kind of the things that I look at. And then ground balls too as well. Ground balls are enormous. If your technique isn't good for the ground ball, like unless you're like a pure shooter who's probably not going to put themselves in that position, I'm going to make sure your ground ball technique is good too.
Yeah, perfect, man. So give me a rundown on how you go about breaking down defenses while you're on the field. Like, what some things you're looking for as an offensive player to try to, these defenses.
Love that question. Starting to think here a little bit. So situational. So forgive me if I'm vague. I'll try to be precise.
No.
The first thing I'm going to look at is how fast pressure is coming. So I'm assessing to see what those defenders are doing with their feet. Are they going to come out and come get me, or are they going to sit back? And so that is going to help me determine if I'm going to be picking or if I'm going to be sealing, or if we're going to be picking or sealing, right? Because if the pressure comes out, then the pick is going to need to be there to free up my hands so we can get the pick and roll going to the net. If they're sitting back, I'm going to need to trap them inside and shoot around them, right? And so then from there, once I understand what they're doing, then I'm just poking around and I'm trying to get to seams. I'm putting as much pressure as I can on the defense by trying to make two guys play me, right? And so and just seeing, I'm poking around, I'm taking hard cuts through the middle to see if they're going to come with me. And then from there, it's just kind of react, assess, take notes, and game with them. If I went left the first time, I'm going right the second time, and now I have either direction I can go the third way, or I can add hezzy moves in there, or I can just pull up for a shot, right? But like testing, being curious, and, a lot of, now everything is filmed, right? And people are a little bit more afraid to make mistakes because they might be, social media, right? And be that highlight reel that nobody wants to be a part of on the backside. But, you try things, you have to experiment with your game. And I see so many people run on the floor and they're not like stepping in new spots and trying new things. And it's like, that's what they don't understand. Like, you have to do those things, right? You have to play around and like figure it out a little bit. And if you're too afraid to figure it out, you're not confident enough to go figure it out, then your game is going to be at a little bit of standstill.
No, absolutely, man. So if you had to give a kid that was coming in like a challenge and they want looking at trying to improve their game kind of short term, what are 3 things that you would say to go focus on and try to give them that best boost in a short amount of time?
Yeah, the best thing I could say would be to get accurate. So, and talking about like doing the boring work. So stand 5 to 7 yards, fish away from the net, and do the same exact shot and put the ball in the same exact spot every single time. And you could do little sets where you're like trying to get, I try to put 3 out of these 5 shots in the top right corner. And if you hit that goal, you're good. And you try and move to the next corner. And if you don't hit that goal, you do some push-ups and then you try it again. Now your arms are a little bit more fatigued. It's going to be a little tougher. You're going to have to think a little bit more through this, right? And that accuracy is everything. Everybody can get more accurate. Every single pro that's currently playing knows that they can be more accurate. They go out and shoot for a reason. All of them do, right? And so many kids, if they just sat there, were more efficient with their practices or their practice time when they're alone, and they're really adamant about hitting that spot over and over again, biggest difference maker in your game. %.
Perfect. So are you a fan of the NLL? Do you watch it?
A huge fan. Those guys are some of the best athletes and players in the world. It's like, honestly, for me to comprehend how they do things at times. Against a lot of them up in Canada, playing Senior A, and it's like, it's truly, even for me, and I'm not blowing smoke up your ass here, like, this is the best lacrosse players, best athletes in the world, and you see the stuff that they do, and you're like, how is that? You watch Josh Bird, you're like, how is this guy doing this. And then you just think about Buffalo in general. And then you think about, you have Josh Byrne on one wing, you got the Dane Smith on the other, and then all the other pieces that they have, like you see these guys, and then you recognize that there are teams that can play against them. So they have just as many ballers. Dude, how could you not be a fan of the game?
No, it's amazing sport, amazing league, all that stuff. I think there's lots of growth. What would be one way that you would recommend the league growing? Where do you think we should be going to help market this?
Man, that is the golden question, isn't it? It's the golden question. So I think it's about making it more relatable for the fan and for the user to experience it. And what I specifically mean is, like, when you look at Senior A lacrosse in Canada, because Senior A lacrosse, they call it in America, it's not even close. We're not on the same wavelength. Canadian Senior A lacrosse to the NLL, they're typically getting some on-ball action that's most likely going to lead to a shot on that ball side, or maybe a skip to the backside and a shot. When you watch the NLL, it's typically on-ball action. It goes off ball, and then it comes back to that original side, and that's where the goal is. And it's the stick work is incredible, and players are moving the defenders and picking and sealing them to create lanes and openings. It's hard for me to watch at times and like break, because it's so advanced. It happens so fast. And so I know where I come from in my level of intellect. And if I'm like thinking of people, as good as me experiencing this, whoa, like that would be tough to watch and really resonate with. So how do you do that? Honestly, it starts with education, right? And kind of toot my own horn, but like kind of doing and providing more context for what's happening in these situations. There's another guy he started to put stuff out too. His name is Christian Watts. Have you seen him on TikTok?
Yeah, I'm a Watts fan.
Yeah, and he's just putting videos out of him shooting constantly. And it's like, yeah, guys, I don't know if you know this, but this is exactly what you have to do. You have to go out every single day and shoot. And it's like, this guy, perfect example of what younger lacrosse players need to be doing, right?
Yeah, it's to bring up Christian Watts because I've been high on him because I'm a TikToker. That's where I started from. So I've seen him a lot. And it's funny because I'm super high on him, and he's kind of under super into the lacrosse community, or even if you're a Halifax fan, kind of 6'4", he moves great, he shoots great, he's super accurate. Like, I think he's going to have a fantastic season, especially with Stotts kind of now right away. I think it's going to give him an opportunity. So I'm pumped to see that guy play this season.
He's American too, right?
Yeah, I think he's from, I want to say he's from Michigan area, but I could be wrong about that. But he's American. He's a fantastic man. He's so good. So who are some guys you enjoy watching in the NLL?
Well, who do I enjoy watching? Let me start this off. I am not Josh Byrne, but I kind of a little similar to him. He's way better than me. I'm not comparing myself to him, but I like watching him because it kind of see little things that I could add into my game. I still play. I have fun playing. It's love watching him. Guys that I love to watch, Ian McKay, I think for every American out there, needs to go model their game around his. He started off as a backdoor transition guy, and now he's moved up to playing offense, but he still runs out of the backdoor to create transition opportunities, which is like kind of old time box lacrosse as well. You'd see guys like Colin Doyle, who, if wanted to get a goal or wanted to get something started, he'd run himself out the backdoor, and he's one of the most elite offensive players of all time, right? So watching a guy like Ian McKay, gosh, I mean, so many good players. It's kind of hard to not look at these amazing guys. Jeff Teed is amazing, obviously. I love Graham Hossack was a teammate of mine, so I watching him just slam people. It's really, there's just many great players out there that are playing the game. It's, just turn a game on and watch. Like, you got Ushi over there, you got Schreiber for the Rock. It's just incredible. Like, when you really start to see what's happening, it's incredible. These guys are amazing.
Yeah, there's an abundance of talent that's actually not being utilized. That's why I'm hoping as we go on, we can have more expansion, because I think there's a lot of guys that are just as high level that, at the highest level, like there's not in the league, but there's some guys that just elevate themselves just to, like, I look at Lyle Thompson. I think he's the best player in the world. Teats on his right there. But Lyle Thompson, like what he does with the ball when he's looking to make a play is just, I think he's better than anybody else out there, in my opinion.
Lyle is incredible. He's incredible. And what I love about him is his extra efforts after the play. He's not just a goal scorer, which is so cool to watch. Like, when you watch him play, he toes the line of anger so well, right? Where he misses a shot or there's a loose ball in the corner and you see the aggression come out of him and he goes and he'll play defense. He's not afraid to go get a hard ground ball, but he never like goes and takes a retaliatory swing at guys. He's so controlled and poised. He's saying he's the best player in the world. I can support that. I can stand right behind that. I think he's
Yeah.
incredible.
Oh, there's definitely a few guys like Dane Smith and be in the competition conversation as well, and obviously Jeff Teat. I think Jeff Teat's like kind of the face of the league, kind of. Yeah, but what's your team, man? Like, do you have a team that you really root for, or are you just kind of anybody?
I could watching anybody. I highly competitive thing with me, but I like never a guy to wear another dude's jersey or anything like that. It's just competitive nature, right? And I have my programs that I run, so those are like I'm really invested in and I love. But when I turn on an NLL game, it's like I'm sad, it's like, oh man, so's playing. Like I just want to watch good games. I just want to watch people compete and work hard, and I want to see them work themselves out of those situations if they're in a hole. Like I want to see good.
Yeah, and I find as I get older, I enjoy watching kind of than I do actual teams, to be honest with you. But I mean, I love watching. I mean, what I like about the NLL specifically so much compared to other professional leagues is any beat any team on any given night. It doesn't matter if you're in the like the place team or the first place team. It's usually competitive games. Last
Yeah.
quick question for you, man, and then we're gonna go. If you could put one sentence on every locker room wall, what would it be?
Whoa, that's a good one. Okay. My coach, thing is like athletic and developing that mindset, right? Like I want a bunch of little killers running around for me, right? That are able to express themselves, right? And expression is, reps, right? Like whatever it is, going and getting approaches, getting good shots off. You would play the game, playing the game the way you play the game. And so I always say to my kids, go get them. And it's like a constant thing for me. If they're on defense, go get them. If they're on offense, go get them. Constantly go get them. It's just a mentality of mine. It's up on the field together and you think you're going to play against me. Well, I'm going to go get you. Right. And that's my big thing is just being aggressive and getting after it and going.
No, that's great, man. So perfect. Well, thank you for being here. Thanks for jumping on. I really appreciate you. Lots of great knowledge. You have a great lacrosse mind. I love that. I love watching your content. I'm going to be, a bunch of it saved, and I'll be using it while I get into coaching this year and stuff. Very much.
Appreciate having you on, man. Thank you so much. Appreciate the kind words, and I love what you're doing. I think it's great for the sport. So thank you.
All right. Thanks, man. We'll talk soon.
Awesome.
Okay, so we went over a lot of stuff in this episode. We had Elliot Bender on. Thank you for him for being on. Great guest. Gave us lots of information. We went over what happened over the weekend of the preseason games. We also touched on the history of lacrosse as well. So I always like to do that, and I'll probably do that every once in a while just to kind of pay heritage to this game. Other than that, another fun-filled episode. I'll keep bringing the content. If you're not, join the Discord jersey contest. I didn't actually mention that this video. I'll follow socials. The Anything Lacrosse show on most things. Anything Lacrosse on TikTok. And other than that, guys, my name is Jake McDonald. I am Anything Lacrosse, and this is the game that never sits still. We'll see you next time, and keep growing this game.